"Grandma, my parents are sending you to a nursing home today." The words came out as barely a whisper, but they hit me like a freight train. My 8-year-old granddaughter Amara stood in my bedroom doorway at 6 in the morning, still in her pajamas with the little pink hearts on them. Her brown eyes were filled with tears, and her bottom lip trembled like she was trying so hard to be brave. I was 73 years old, sitting on the edge of my bed, about to put on my house slippers. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The morning light coming through my curtains suddenly felt cold. "What did you say, baby?" I asked, even though I'd heard her perfectly clear. "I heard Daddy on the phone last night," Amara whispered, coming closer and grabbing my hand. Her little fingers were shaking. "He was talking to Aunt Kenya. They said the people are coming today. They said you're too much trouble and they need your room for the new baby." My heart cracked right down the middle, but I didn't let Amara see it break. I pulled her into my arms and held her tight, feeling her little body shake with silent sobs against my chest. "Shh, baby girl. It's going to be all right," I said softly, stroking her thick black hair that I'd braided just 2 days ago. "Don't you worry about your grandma. I'm tougher than I look." But inside, I was screaming. Inside, I was dying. What my son Devin and his wife Tanya didn't know was that their burden of a mother was sitting on $17 million. And they were about to find out exactly what happens when you throw away the person who sacrificed everything for you. Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Let me take you back to the beginning, so you understand how I got here. My name is Dorothy Washington, but everyone calls me Dot. I was born in 1952 in Birmingham, Alabama, and I've lived through things these young folks today couldn't even imagine. I marched with Dr. King when I was 15. I raised 3 children while working 2 jobs after my first husband died in Vietnam. I put myself through nursing school at night while my babies slept. And when I married my second husband, Robert Washington, in 1985, I thought I'd finally found my forever peace. Robert was a good man, a strong man. He owned a small construction company, and while we weren't rich, we were comfortable. We had our little house on Maple Street in Atlanta, went to Greater Hope Baptist Church every Sunday, and hosted family dinners that filled our home with laughter and the smell of my famous peach cobbler. We had 1 son together, Devin, born in 1986. I loved that boy more than my own breath. After Robert died suddenly from a heart attack in 2015, Devin was my rock. Or so I thought. What nobody knew was that Robert had been smarter with money than anyone gave him credit for. He'd bought property all over Atlanta back in the 80s and 90s when land was cheap. He'd invested in a little tech startup that one of his college buddies founded. He'd taken out a massive life insurance policy. When he died, I inherited everything. The properties had appreciated like crazy. That tech company went public. By 2016, I was worth over $17 million. I didn't tell a soul. Not my children, not my church family, nobody. Robert and I had seen too many families torn apart by money. We'd planned that if anything happened to him, I'd keep it quiet and use it to make sure our family was taken care of without them knowing. I'd give them help when they needed it, make their lives easier, but let them keep their dignity and their drive. So that's what I did. When Devin and Tanya were struggling to buy their first house in 2017, I loaned them $50,000 for the down payment. When my daughter Kenya needed help with her business, I invested $30,000. When my oldest son Marcus lost his job, I made sure his mortgage got paid for 6 months through an anonymous church blessing. I lived simply in my paid-off house, drove my old 2010 Honda Accord, and kept volunteering at the church food pantry every Tuesday and Thursday. I wore the same dresses I'd had for years, clipped coupons, and made it look like I was living on Social Security and Robert's modest pension. Everything was fine until 3 years ago, when Devin lost his job as a regional sales manager. Tanya was pregnant with their 3rd child, and money got tight. real tight. They asked if they could move in with me just for a few months until Devin found new work. I said yes, of course. What grandmother wouldn't? Those few months turned into 3 years. Architected narrative arc with pacing strategy and word count allocation. Good start. I need to continue building the backstory and show how the relationship deteriorated, then lead up to the morning revelation and end with a cliffhanger. I'm at about 850 words, so I have room for another 1,300 to 1,400 words to reach the 2,200 max. I need to show how living together changed the dynamics, how they started treating her, specific incidents of disrespect, build to the moment she decides to walk out. End on a strong cliffhanger. At first, it was nice having family around. Amara was 5 then, and my grandson Isaiah was 3. They filled the house with joy. I'd cook big breakfasts, help with homework, braid Amara's hair, and read bedtime stories. Devin would help around the house, and Tanya would sit with me and watch our shows in the evening. But slowly, things changed. Devin found a new job after 4 months, but they didn't move out. Then Tanya's mother got sick, and they said they needed to save money for her care. Then the baby came, little Zion, and they said it was too hard to move with a newborn. Then it was the pandemic. Then it was inflation. There was always a reason. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being Grandma Dot, who they were grateful to, and became the old lady in the way. It started small. Tanya stopped asking if I wanted to watch certain shows, just changed the channel. Devin stopped knocking on my bedroom door, just walked in whenever. They started making family decisions without including me. When I'd cook dinner, Tanya would wrinkle her nose and order takeout instead, saying my food was too heavy or not healthy enough. My bedroom, the master suite that Robert and I had shared for 30 years, became a topic of conversation. I'd hear them whispering about how they needed more space, how it wasn't fair that I had the biggest room when there were 5 of them cramped into 3 bedrooms. But I held my tongue. I told myself they were stressed. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself that family sticks together through hard times. Then came my fall last year. I slipped on some water in the kitchen and broke my wrist. It wasn't serious, just needed a cast for 6 weeks. But Tanya acted like I'd become completely helpless. She started talking about how I was getting too old to live alone. Even though I wasn't alone, I was living with them. She started making comments about senior living facilities, about how nice they were, how I could make friends my own age, and have professional care. I'd see her on her phone, looking at pictures of nursing homes, showing them to Devin when she thought I wasn't paying attention. My church friends started noticing the change in me. Sister Patricia from the choir pulled me aside one Sunday and asked if everything was all right at home. I smiled and said everything was fine, but she looked at me with those knowing eyes that see straight through to the truth. "Baby," she said, holding both my hands, "you got a light in you that's been dimming. Don't let nobody steal your joy. You hear me?" I heard her, but I didn't know what to do about it. The final straw should have been 2 weeks ago, when I overheard Devin and Tanya in their bedroom. Their door was cracked, and I was walking past to use the bathroom. "We need that room, Devin," Tanya was saying. "This baby is coming in 3 months, and we can't keep all 3 kids in one bedroom. It's not fair to them." "I know, baby, I know," Devin said. "But what am I supposed to do? Just kick my mother out?" "There are nice facilities, nice ones. We looked at Sunny Meadows last week, remember? It was actually really beautiful. She'd have her own room, activities, people to talk to. She might even be happier there. She's not going to want to go." "Then we need to make it sound like it's her idea, or like we don't have a choice. The baby is coming, Devin. We need to make a decision." I stood frozen in that hallway, my hand on the wall to steady myself. My own son. My baby boy who I'd rocked to sleep every night, who I'd sat with through every fever and nightmare, who I'd worked 2 jobs to put through college. He was planning to send me away like I was trash to be disposed of. I should have confronted them right then. I should have told them I'd heard everything, but I was in shock. I went back to my room and sat in the dark, shaking. That's when I started making my own plans. I called my lawyer, Gerald Thompson, first thing Monday morning. Gerald was an old friend of Robert's, and one of the only people who knew about my money. We met at his office downtown. "Gerald, I need you to do something for me," I said. "I need you to transfer my assets somewhere they can't be traced back to me. I need to disappear without anyone knowing where I've gone or what I have." Gerald looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. "Tell me what happened, Dorothy." I told him everything. When I finished, his jaw was tight with anger. "I've seen this too many times," he said quietly. "Families who see their elderly parents as burdens instead of blessings." "You deserve better than this, Dorothy. Robert would be heartbroken." "I know," I whispered. "That's why I need to leave. But I need to do it in a way that protects the grandchildren, especially Amara. She's got a good heart." We spent 3 hours planning. Gerald would set up trusts, move assets, create legal protections. But more than that, we planned for what would happen after I left. Because I wasn't just going to walk out and disappear. I was going to make sure my son learned a lesson he'd never forget. That was 2 weeks ago. This morning, Amara's whispered warning confirmed what I already knew. Today was the day they'd chosen. The nursing home transport was probably already scheduled, but they were about to learn that Grandma Dot wasn't going anywhere she didn't choose to go. After I calmed Amara down and sent her back to bed before her parents woke up, I sat in my room and looked around at the life I'd built in this house. The photos of Robert on my dresser, the quilt my grandmother had made that covered my bed, the Bible on my nightstand that had seen me through every storm. I packed one small bag, just clothes for a few days, my medications, my important documents, and the burner phone Gerald had given me. Everything else could stay. Material things didn't matter anymore. At 7:30, I heard Devin and Tanya getting up, heard the kids running around getting ready for school. I listened to the sounds of my family going about their morning like it was any other day, like they hadn't been planning to throw me away like yesterday's garbage. I waited until 8 o'clock. Then I walked out of my bedroom for what I knew might be the last time, carrying my small bag. Tanya was in the kitchen, heavily pregnant, making breakfast. Devin was at the table on his laptop. The kids were in the living room watching cartoons before school. "Good morning," I said calmly. They both looked up, and I saw something flash in Tanya's eyes. Surprise? Guilt? Fear that I'd heard Amara? "Morning, Mama," Devin said. "You're up early." "I'm going out for a while," I said. "Don't wait up for me." "Out where?" Tanya asked, her voice tight. I looked at my son, really looked at him, tried to see the little boy I'd raised, but all I could see was a stranger who'd forgotten where he came from. "Does it matter?" I asked quietly. And then I walked to the front door, opened it, and stepped out into the cool October morning, closing the door behind me on the only home I'd known for 40 years. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I wasn't staying to be put away like an old coat nobody wanted anymore. What I didn't hear as the door closed behind me was Tanya's panicked voice. "Devin, the nursing home van is supposed to be here in an hour. Where is she going?" And what they were about to discover would change everything. I walked down Maple Street with no destination in mind, just one foot in front of the other. The morning air was crisp, and the leaves on the trees were turning gold and red. It was beautiful, but I barely saw it. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might give out right there on the sidewalk. My phone started ringing in my purse. I pulled it out and saw Devin's name flashing on the screen. I let it ring until it stopped. Then it started again. I turned the phone off completely and dropped it in a trash can on the corner of Oak Street. From now on, I'd only use the burner phone Gerald had given me. They didn't get to track me anymore. They didn't get to know where I was or what I was doing. For the first time in 3 years, I was free. I walked for 20 minutes until I reached the old MARTA station. I bought a ticket and got on the next train headed downtown. As the train moved through the city, I watched Atlanta pass by through the window. This was the city where I'd built my life, raised my children, buried my husband. Every street corner held a memory. But memories weren't enough to make me stay where I wasn't wanted. I got off at Peachtree Center and walked 3 blocks to the Renaissance Hotel. It was a nice place. The kind of place the old Dot who clipped coupons would never have gone. But the new Dot, the one who was done being invisible, walked right up to that front desk and booked a suite for a month. The young man at the desk, his name tag said Terrence, smiled at me warmly. "Will you need help with your luggage, ma'am?" "This is all I have," I said, holding up my small bag. "I'm traveling light these days." "Sometimes that's the best way to travel," he said, handing me my key card. "You're in room 1847. If you need anything at all, just call down to the desk." "Thank you, baby," I said, and I meant it. That small kindness, that warm smile from a stranger, meant more to me in that moment than anything my own family had given me in years. The suite was beautiful. Big windows overlooking the city, a king-size bed with fluffy white linens, a sitting area with a couch and a flat-screen TV. I sat down on that couch and just breathed for the first time in what felt like forever. Then I pulled out the burner phone and called Gerald. "Dorothy?" he answered on the first ring. "Are you all right? Where are you?" "I'm safe," I said. "I'm at the Renaissance downtown. It's time to move forward with the plan." "Are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back." I thought about Amara's tear-filled eyes. I thought about the way Devin and Tanya had talked about me like I was a piece of furniture in the way. I thought about 40 years of sacrifice and love that they were ready to throw away without a second thought. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," I said. "All right then," Gerald said. "I'll start the process today. But Dorothy, there's something you need to know. I did some checking on your property. That house on Maple Street? It's in your name only. Robert made sure of that in his will. They can't sell it, can't mortgage it, can't do anything with it without your permission." My breath caught. I didn't know that. "Robert wanted to protect you. He made sure everything was ironclad. That house is yours and so is everything in it. Which means they've been living in your house rent-free for 3 years, and now they were planning to kick you out of your own home." The betrayal cut even deeper. "What do I need to do?" "First, we need to secure the property. I'm going to have locks changed this afternoon. Second, we need to file some legal papers. And third, we need to let them know that you're not the helpless old woman they think you are." "How long will it take?" "I can have the locks changed by 3 o'clock today. The legal papers will take a few days to process. But Dorothy, you need to be prepared. When they realize you're serious about this, things are going to get ugly." "Let them get ugly," I said. "I'm done being nice to people who treat me like trash." After I hung up with Gerald, I took a long shower and changed into fresh clothes. Then I ordered room service, something I'd never done in my life. When the food came, I sat by that big window and ate a club sandwich while watching the city move below me. My old phone was gone, so Devin and Tanya had no way to reach me. I wondered what they were doing right now. Were they panicked? Were they calling hospitals? Or were they relieved that I'd made it easy for them by leaving on my own? I got my answer around 2 o'clock when there was a knock on my hotel room door. I looked through the peephole and saw Sister Patricia from church standing there with another woman I didn't recognize. I opened the door, confused. "Sister Patricia? How did you find me?" She pulled me into a tight hug. "Baby, your son called the church in a panic saying you'd gone missing. Pastor Williams asked me to check the hotels downtown because he remembered you mentioning you liked this area. Can we come in?" I let them in, and Sister Patricia introduced her companion. "This is my niece, Vanessa. She's a lawyer specializing in elder law. I brought her because I have a feeling you might need her." Vanessa was a sharp-looking woman in her 40s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense air about her. She shook my hand firmly. "Mrs. Washington, your son and daughter-in-law have called the police claiming you're a vulnerable adult who's wandered off and might be confused or in danger." My blood ran cold. "They did what?" "They're trying to file for emergency guardianship," Vanessa said. "They're claiming you're not mentally competent to make decisions for yourself. If they succeed, they'll have legal control over you and all your assets." Sister Patricia sat down heavily on the couch. "Lord have mercy. I knew something was wrong, but I never thought they'd go this far." "Can they do that?" I asked Vanessa, my voice shaking. "Can they just take away my rights like that?" "They can try," Vanessa said, "but only if they can prove you're incompetent. Mrs. Washington Vaz, I need to ask you something directly. Are you of sound mind? Do you understand what's happening?" "I understand perfectly," I said, my voice stronger now. "I understand that my son wants to steal my house and my life. I understand that I walked out of my own home this morning to avoid being shipped off to a nursing home against my will. And I understand that I'm about to fight back harder than they ever imagined." Vanessa smiled, a fierce smile that reminded me of a warrior. "Good. Then let's go to war. But first, I need to know everything. And I mean everything." So I told them. I told them about the $17 million, about the plans Gerald and I had made, about the house being in my name, about the locks being changed today. I told them about Amara's warning and Tanya's cruel words, and Devon's betrayal. When I finished, Sister Patricia was crying and Vanessa was furious. "They have no idea who they're messing with, do they?" Vanessa said. "Mrs. Washington, by the time we're done, they're going to wish they'd treated you like the queen you are." "I don't want revenge," I said, though part of me knew that wasn't entirely true. "I just want them to understand what they've lost. I want them to learn that you don't throw away the people who love you." "Oh, they're going to learn," Sister Patricia said, wiping her eyes. "They're going to learn in a way they'll never forget." Vanessa pulled out her laptop. "First things first, we need to get ahead of this guardianship petition. I'm going to schedule an emergency evaluation with a neurologist I trust. We'll get documentation proving you're completely competent. Then we're going to file a restraining order preventing them from harassing you or trying to control your assets. And then," she smiled again, "then we're going to show them exactly what happens when you underestimate a black woman who's lived through everything this country could throw at her and came out strong." We spent the next 2 hours planning. Vanessa made phone calls, typed up documents, and built our case. Sister Patricia ordered more room service and made sure I ate, fussing over me like the mother hen she was. Around 5 o'clock, Gerald called my burner phone. "The locks are changed," he said. "And you should know, Devon and Tanya tried to come home around 4 and couldn't get in. They're outside the house right now, calling locksmiths. I had my assistant serve them with a notice that they're residing in your property without a lease and that you're requiring them to vacate within 30 days. "How did they react?" I asked. "Not well," Gerald said, and I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. "Tanya was screaming about calling the police. Devon was trying to call you over and over. They have no idea you've lawyered up. They think you're just a confused old woman who wandered off." "They're about to find out different," I said. After Gerald hung up, I sat back and tried to process everything that had happened in just one day. This morning I'd been a scared old woman being pushed out of her own home. Tonight I was sitting in a hotel suite with a lawyer, a plan, and the resources to fight back. But I wasn't prepared for what happened next. Around 6:30, Sister Patricia's phone rang. She looked at the screen and her face went pale. "It's Pastor Williams," she said, answering. "Hello, Pastor?" "Yes, she's right here with me. She's safe." "What? Oh, Lord, I'll tell her." She hung up and turned to me with tears in her eyes. "Dorothy, Devon went to the church. He stood up during evening service and told everyone that you've gone missing and might have dementia. He said the family is worried sick and asked everyone to pray for your safe return. He's got the whole congregation thinking you're a sick old woman lost in the city. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. He was using my own church, my own community, to paint me as incompetent. He was destroying my reputation to cover up his own cruelty. That boy has lost his mind, I said quietly. He thinks he can use my church family against me? Vanessa was already typing on her laptop. This actually helps our case. He's publicly stating you're incompetent, which we can use to show malicious intent when we prove you're not. But Mrs. Washington, you need to be prepared. He's going to turn people against you. Some folks are going to believe his story. Then we tell them the truth, I said. Sister Patricia, can you call an emergency meeting with the church elders? It's time everyone knew what's really been going on. I'll set it up for tomorrow, Sister Patricia said. Pastor Williams needs to know the truth. The whole truth. That night, I lay in that big hotel bed and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere across town, Devin and Tanya were probably in a panic, trying to figure out what had gone wrong with their plan. The nursing home van had probably shown up to an empty house. The locks had been changed, legal papers had been served, and they still had no idea about the $17 million. But they were about to find out, because tomorrow Gerald was filing a lawsuit that would blow their world apart. I thought about Amara, about her little face when she'd warned me this morning. I hoped she was okay. I hoped Devin and Tanya weren't taking their anger out on her. That was the only part of this that broke my heart, being away from my grandchildren. But I had to do this. I had to show them that you can't treat people like they're disposable. I had to show Devin that his mother was worth more than a room in a house. I was almost asleep when my burner phone buzzed with a text from Gerald. Big news. Just found out Devin took out a reverse mortgage application on your house last week. He forged your signature. We have him on fraud. This changes everything. I sat straight up in bed, my heart racing. My own son had tried to steal my house. He'd committed a crime to get rid of me. The next morning, all of Atlanta was about to learn that Grandma Dot wasn't just a sweet old lady who made peach cobbler and went to church on Sundays. I was a force of nature, and I was about to rain down justice on everyone who'd forgotten that. The meeting with the church elders happened at 9 o'clock the next morning in Pastor Williams's office. There were 7 of them sitting around the conference table: Pastor Williams, Sister Patricia, Deacon Morris, Sister Laverne, Brother James, Sister Constance, and Deacon Harper. These were people who'd known me for 30 years, who'd prayed with me when Robert died, who'd celebrated with me at every church function. And my son had lied to all of them. Pastor Williams was a tall man in his 60s with silver hair and eyes that had seen it all. He looked at me with concern and confusion. Sister Dorothy, Devin came to us last night in tears. He said you'd wandered off and might be confused. But Sister Patricia tells a very different story. I took a deep breath and told them everything, every single detail. The planning to send me to a nursing home, the way they'd treated me in my own house, the attempted reverse mortgage fraud, the guardianship petition. And yes, I told them about the $17 million. You could have heard a pin drop in that room when I finished. Deacon Morris, who'd been friends with Robert, stood up with tears running down his face. Robert told me, he said quietly. Years ago, before he died, he told me he'd made investments and asked me to watch over you if anything happened to him. He made me promise that if anyone ever tried to take advantage of you, I'd speak up. Sister Dorothy, I'm sorry. I should have seen what was happening. It's not your fault, I said. They were careful. They made sure everything looked good on the outside. Pastor Williams shook his head slowly. That boy stood in my church and lied to the entire congregation. Used our love for you to manipulate us into supporting his narrative. That's not just wrong, that's sinful. What are you going to do, Sister Dorothy? Sister Laverne asked. Because whatever you need, this church has got your back. I'm going to court, I said. I'm going to fight the guardianship petition, press charges for the fraud, and evict them from my house. And I'm going to make sure my grandchildren are protected through all of this." "Then you won't fight alone," Pastor Williams said firmly. "This Sunday, I'm setting the record straight from the pulpit. The truth needs to be told." That same morning, Vanessa filed our response to the guardianship petition, along with a countersuit for elder abuse, fraud, and attempted theft. She also filed for an emergency hearing, which was granted for the following Tuesday. Gerald filed criminal charges for the forged reverse mortgage documents. The district attorney's office took one look at the evidence and agreed to prosecute. Everything was moving fast, faster than Devin and Tanya could have anticipated. On Sunday morning, I walked into Greater Hope Baptist Church for the first time since I'd left my house. I wore my best purple dress, the one Robert had always said made me look like royalty. Sister Patricia sat on one side of me, Vanessa on the other. I could feel every eye in that sanctuary on me. I could hear the whispers. Some people looked concerned, others confused, a few looked suspicious. Devin and Tanya were sitting in the third row with the children. When Devin saw me, his face went white. Pastor Williams stood up to preach, and his voice rang out clear and strong. "Church family, last week I stood before you and asked you to pray for Sister Dorothy Washington, who we were told was missing and possibly confused. Today, I'm here to tell you the truth. Sister Dorothy is not confused. She is not lost. She is a strong, sound-minded woman who is being abused in her own home by her own family." The gasps echoed through the church. Devin stood up. "Pastor, with all due respect—" "Sit down, Devin," Pastor Williams said, his voice like thunder. "I'm not finished. What happened to Sister Dorothy is a sin that happens too often in our community. Our elders, the ones who marched for our freedom, who worked themselves to the bone to give us better lives, are being treated like burdens, being pushed aside, being stolen from. And I will not let it happen in this church, not on my watch." Tanya grabbed Devin's arm, trying to pull him back down, but he shook her off. "You don't know the whole story. We were taking care of her. We gave up our lives to move in with her." "You moved into her house," Pastor Williams said. "A house she owned. A house you were planning to steal through fraud. Yes, the church elders know everything. And Devin, you stood in this sanctuary and lied to God's people. You used this church to make your mother look incompetent so you could control her. That ends today." The congregation erupted in shocked murmurs. I watched my son's face crumble as he realized his lies had been exposed. Tanya stood up, grabbed the children, and rushed out of the church. Devin followed, but not before shooting me a look of pure hatred. That look hurt more than anything else, but I didn't let it break me. After church, dozens of people came up to me. Some apologized for believing Devin's story. Others shared their own stories of family betrayal and elder abuse. Sister Constance told me her own mother had been swindled by her brother, and she wished she'd fought back the way I was fighting. "You're doing this for all of us," she said, squeezing my hand. "Every grandmother who's been pushed aside, every elder who's been forgotten. You keep fighting, Sister Dorothy." The court hearing on Tuesday was intense. The courtroom was packed with church members who'd come to support me. Devin and Tanya sat with their lawyer, a slick-looking man named Richard Beaumont, who looked like he thought this would be an easy case. He was wrong. The judge was Honorable Cynthia Reeves, a black woman in her 50s with a reputation for not tolerating nonsense. She looked over the petition for guardianship, then looked at me sitting there with Vanessa, then looked back at Devin and his lawyer. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Judge Reeves said. "You're petitioning for guardianship of your mother, claiming she's incompetent to manage her own affairs. But your mother is the one who owns the house you've been living in rent-free for 3 years. She's the one who has been financially supporting your family. And she's the one who discovered you attempted to forge her signature on a reverse mortgage application. Is that correct?" Mr. Beaumont stood up. "Your Honor, Mrs. Washington is elderly and vulnerable. Her decision to suddenly leave her home and family is evidence of confusion and possible dementia.
Mrs. Washington, Judge Reeves interrupted, looking at me. Do you know where you are right now?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm in Fulton County Superior Court. Do you know what day it is? Tuesday, November 5th, 2025. Can you tell me what happened on the morning you left your house? I took a deep breath and told her everything. The judge listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with every word. When I finished, she turned to Devin. Mr. Washington, stand up. Devin stood, looking nervous. Your mother is clearly of sound mind, Judge Reeves said. In fact, she appears to be more competent than you are. Not only are you denied guardianship, but I'm ordering a full investigation into elder abuse. Furthermore, I'm issuing a restraining order preventing you from contacting your mother or entering her property without her express permission. The criminal charges for fraud will proceed separately. Do you understand? Your Honor, please, Devin said, his voice breaking. She's my mother. I was just trying to take care of the family. By stealing her house? Judge Reeves snapped. By forging her signature? By trying to have her declared incompetent so you could control her assets? Mr. Washington, I've seen a lot of cases in this courtroom, but the level of betrayal you've shown toward your own mother is stunning. You should be ashamed of yourself. Tanya was crying in her seat. Devin looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Mrs. Dorothy Washington, Judge Reeves said, her voice gentler now. You have 30 days to evict the current occupants of your home. The court will ensure this process is smooth and that you are protected. Is there anything else you need from this court? Vanessa stood up. Your Honor, Mrs. Barton, Washington would like supervised visitation with her grandchildren. She wants to maintain a relationship with them despite the actions of their parents. Judge Reeves nodded. Granted, visitation will be supervised at a neutral location twice a week. Mr. and Mrs. Washington, if you interfere with these visits in any way, you'll be held in contempt. We're adjourned. The gavel came down, and it was over. Devin and Tanya left quickly, not looking at anyone. But I sat there for a moment, letting it sink in. I'd won. I'd stood up for myself and won. Sister Patricia hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. You did it, baby. You did it. But the hardest part was still to come. That evening, Vanessa arranged the first supervised visit with my grandchildren at a family center downtown. When I walked into that room and saw Amara, Isaiah, and baby Zion, my heart nearly broke. Amara ran to me and threw her arms around my waist, sobbing. Grandma, I thought I'd never see you again. Mama said you left because you didn't love us anymore. I knelt down and held her face in my hands. Baby girl, listen to me. I will always love you. Always. I didn't leave because of you. I left because sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, and I had to protect myself. But I will never, ever stop being your grandma. Isaiah climbed into my lap, and I held both of them while Zion played with blocks nearby. The supervisor sat in the corner, taking notes, but I barely noticed her. All that mattered was these 3 babies. Are you coming home, Grandma? Isaiah asked. Not to the same house, baby, but I'm getting my own place, a place where you can come visit me whenever your parents say it's okay. It'll have a room just for you with bunk beds and toys and all your favorite snacks. Can we have sleepovers? Amara asked. As many as your mama and daddy allow, I said, though I knew that might be never. The month that followed was a whirlwind. Devin and Tanya moved out of my house 3 days before the eviction deadline. They didn't take anything that wasn't theirs, probably because they knew I'd have them arrested if they did. They left the house clean but cold, stripped of the warmth that family brings. I hired a moving company to pack up my belongings. I wasn't going back to that house. Too many bad memories now. Instead, I bought a beautiful condo in Buckhead with a view of the city. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a huge kitchen, and a balcony where I could drink my morning coffee and watch the sunrise. I furnished one bedroom specifically for the grandchildren with everything they could want. Bunk beds, a toy chest, a bookshelf full of books. Even though I didn't know if they'd ever get to use it, I made sure it was ready for them. The house on Maple Street I decided to turn into a community center, a place where seniors could gather, where families could get counseling, where people could find resources if they were being abused or taken advantage of. I named it the Robert Washington Center for Elder Dignity. It opened in January, and on opening day, over 200 people showed up. Pastor Williams blessed the building. Sister Patricia organized a choir performance. Deacon Morris gave a speech about Robert's legacy and how proud he would have been. And standing in the crowd, hiding in the back, was Devin. After the ceremony, I saw him slip out, but I followed. I caught up with him in the parking lot. "Devin!" I called out. He turned, and I saw that my strong, confident son looked broken. His eyes were red, his shoulders slumped. "Mama, Let me talk first," I said. "I want you to understand something. I didn't do all this to hurt you. I did it to teach you a lesson that your father and I obviously failed to teach when you were growing up. Family isn't about what you can get from people. It's not about using them until they're no longer convenient. Family is about love, respect, and honor. Your father and I sacrificed everything to give you a good life. We worked ourselves to the bone so you could have opportunities we never had. And when I needed you, when I was vulnerable in my own home, you saw me as a problem to solve instead of a person to cherish." Tears were streaming down his face. "I'm sorry, Mama. God, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened to me. Tanya was stressed about the baby, about money, and I stopped seeing you as my mother. I saw you as an obstacle, and I hate myself for it." "I know you're sorry," I said. "But sorry doesn't change what you did. Sorry doesn't give me back the feeling of safety I had in my own home. Sorry doesn't erase the trauma of knowing my own son was willing to throw me away." I know, and I don't expect you to forgive me. But Mama, can I ask you something? The money? You had all that money the whole time?" "Yes." "Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you use it to help yourself?" "Because your father and I wanted you to learn to stand on your own 2 feet, I said. "We wanted you to have dignity and drive, not dependence. I helped you when you needed it, but I let you think you were doing it yourself. That was my gift to you. And you repaid it by trying to steal from me." He fell to his knees right there in the parking lot, sobbing. "What can I do? How can I make this right?" I looked down at my son, and my heart broke for him even as I stayed strong. "You can learn from this. You can be a better man. You can teach your children to respect their elders and value family. And maybe, someday, when you've proven that you understand what you did wrong, we can start to rebuild. But Devin, that day is not today." I left him there and walked back to my car, where Sister Patricia was waiting for me. "You all right, baby?" she asked. "I will be," I said. 3 months later, I got a letter from Devin. It was 20 pages long, handwritten, and it detailed everything he'd done wrong, every moment he'd failed me, and every step he was taking to become a better man. He and Tanya were in counseling. He'd started volunteering at the center I'd opened. He wanted to make amends, not for forgiveness, but because it was the right thing to do. I wrote him back. 1 page. I told him I appreciated his honesty and his effort. I told him the door to reconciliation was open, but he'd have to walk through it slowly, 1 step at a time. And I told him I loved him, because despite everything, he was still my son. The supervised visits with the grandchildren continued. After 6 months, the court allowed unsupervised visits. Amara and Isaiah started spending weekends with me in my condo. I'd take them to church, cook them breakfast, help them with homework, and tuck them into the bunk beds in their special room. One Saturday morning, Amara was helping me make pancakes when she asked, "Grandma, are you rich?" I smiled. "Why do you ask, baby?" "Isaiah said Daddy told him you have a lot of money. Is that true? I turned off the stove and sat down with her. Yes, it's true. Your grandfather left me enough money that I don't have to worry. But you know what? Money isn't what makes you rich. Love makes you rich. Kindness makes you rich. Having people in your life who treat you with respect makes you rich. And by that measure, I'm the richest woman in the world because I have you and your brothers. She hugged me tight. I love you, Grandma. I love you too, baby girl. Always have. Always will. A year after I left that house, Pastor Williams invited me to give my testimony at church. I stood before the congregation and told my story, every painful detail. I talked about the betrayal, the fear, the moment I decided to fight back. And I talked about forgiveness, about healing, about the long road to reconciliation. I'm not telling you this story to shame my son, I said. I'm telling you this story because I know I'm not the only elder who's been treated this way. I know there are grandmothers and grandfathers sitting in this church right now who are being taken advantage of, who are being pushed aside, who feel like they're burdens to their families. And I want you to know that you're not alone. You have value. You have worth. And you have the right to stand up for yourself, no matter how old you are. The church erupted in applause and amens. After the service, 7 different people came to me asking for help with their own situations. I connected them with Vanessa, with the resources at the center, with support groups. That's when I realized this hadn't just been about me. This had been about breaking a cycle, about showing our community that elder abuse is not acceptable, that our seniors deserve dignity and respect. Today, as I sit on my balcony drinking coffee and watching the sunrise over Atlanta, I think about how far I've come. The Robert Washington Center for Elder Dignity is thriving, helping hundreds of families. My relationship with Devin is slowly healing, though it will never be what it was, and that's okay. I see my grandchildren regularly, and they're learning from my story about strength and standing up for yourself. The $17 million? I'm using it to make a difference. Scholarships for nursing students, grants for senior programs, legal aid for elders facing abuse. Every dollar is going to honor Robert's memory and help people who need it. And me? I'm living my best life at 73 years old. I travel when I want, eat what I like, spend time with people who value me, and wake up every morning grateful for the strength it took to walk out that door. My son tried to throw me away, thinking I was nothing but a burden. What he didn't know was that I was a queen who'd been wearing her crown in secret. And when I finally revealed who I really was, it changed everything. Sometimes the people who underestimate you give you the greatest gift of all, the motivation to show them exactly who you are. I'm Dorothy Washington. I'm a survivor, a fighter, and a woman who knows her worth. And I'm just getting started. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.